Deep in center, Hayward not quite as deep in right.
A little bouncer slowly toward Bryant. He will glove it and throw to Rizzo. It's in time, and the Chicago Cubs win the World Series. The Cubs come pouring out of the dugout, jumping up and down like a bunch of delirious 10-year-olds. The Cubs have done it.
Moore has no timeouts remaining. Flacco got that big arm. He uncorks one. End zone. And it's over. The Dallas Cowboys win their 9th in a row. The hottest team in the NFL. And they continue to roll. 27-17 the final. Dallas over Baltimore. 8th straight game with 400-plus yards of offense. Longest streak in team history. Jason Garrett and John Harbaugh share.
From North Carolina from 33 yards and a walk-off winner. Right through, and the Hawkeyes have stunned the Wolverines. Michigan unbeaten no more.
Wow. Welcome to the Prime. It's been about a month, but I'm bringing you the Thanksgiving fall edition of the Prime here. For those who don't know, or for those who are listening for the first time, my name is Israel Rivera, and I'm just going to talk about a few things that happened over this past month as we wrap up the fall and start heading into the winter months. Today's Thanksgiving. Hopefully everybody has a happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully everybody is thankful. I am thankful that the Cubs won the World Series. Woo! But I'll get to that a little bit later on. But we'll talk about the Cowboys' success. We'll talk about, that week in college football that you just heard where 3 teams lost. I didn't get the USC soundbite, but I'm going to start it off with the Chicago Cubs. I should have made a podcast right after the Cubs won the World Series because it would have been fresh. But it's okay because I'm going to talk about it right now. Since I'm wrapping up the fall, perfect time, Thanksgiving. Everybody's going to have their turkey, their fried turkey, their turducken, their, doing their you name it challenge. Collard greens, rams, hams, whatever the case is. Potatoes, gravy, biscuits, sweet potato pie, pumpkin pie, whatever the case is, whatever your mellow and your jello. I hope everybody eats respectively. Don't get too full. I hope everybody's out there playing in the turkey bowl, playing football right now. But I can't wait to go to some family's house and chow down. But let me get started with business first. The Chicago Cubs ended a 108-year drought. Unbelievable. Besides seeing my son born, that was the greatest moment I've ever seen in my life. Despite it being on TV, because God knows, I couldn't afford a ticket. But that's neither here or there. The greatest sports moment that I've seen in my entire life. I am a lifelong Cubs fan. Everybody should know that already by now. And I'm talking about the resiliency of the Chicago Cubs to be down 3-1, to come back. And I saw this happening. I told everybody, calm down, because the Chicago Cubs are going to come back and win this thing. because they're too young, they're too resilient, they're too deep, they're just too good. And when you got a manager that is that great and he has that ball club loosened up a bunch, great things are destined to happen. This Cubs team is going to be a dynasty. And for everybody who wants to say no or neither or nay or whatever, just think about how the Yankees were in the 90s. This is what the Cubs are going to be. How the Yankees were in the 90s, this is what the Cubs are going to be in the future. So everybody can stop hating, because this is what the Cubs are going to be in the future. They're going to be multiple World Series champions, and they just touched the surface, because sky's the limit for these guys. They haven't even reached their full potential yet. That's scary. That's scary. Now, maybe a couple of their arms down the road won't be there, but their farm system is bar none the best in Major League Baseball, next to like the Dodgers and so forth. But I will say this. That Game 7, I almost jumped off a bridge a couple times. I mean, I thought we had it wrapped up. Brings in Chapman for 5 more outs. I thought that was a stretch. Rajai Davis. First of all, Brandon Guyer, I think he used to play for the Chicago White Sox. If we had an ex-White Sox player beat us, I would have definitely jumped off a bridge. Because Brandon Guyer and Rajai Davis almost single-handedly won that game for the Cleveland Indians. Now, when Rajai Davis hit that 2-run home run, I screamed and I was just so mad. I probably was like every other Cubs fan. I was really upset. But the rain delay happened, and that was a blessing in disguise. And Jason Hayward pulled the troops together. And he basically said, hey, guys, you're the best team in baseball. They're not. You are. Let's play like it. And they came out in that 10th inning, and they played like it. In the bottom of the 10th, kind of got a little dicey. First 2 outs, it was a little too easy. Then Brandon Guyer got on base. Then Rajai Davis hit a single up the middle in the center field. Brandon Guyer scores. Like I said, they almost single-handedly won this game for them. And then they bring in Mike Montgomery, the lefty. Throws a curveball to Michael Martinez. Ground out. Chris Bryant. Game over. Cubs are World Series champions. Congratulations. The World Series parade. Quick 2-day turnaround. I think it was the 5th largest human gathering in our history. I mean, it should have been in history, because I mean the Cubs haven't won one in 108 years. So the parade was awesome. It's nothing I've ever seen before, ever. It's nothing. It's something that will never be duplicated. I mean, even if the Cubs win another one, I don't think that many fans will come out to another World Series parade like they did the first one. So, big congratulations to the Chicago Cubs. I mean, I predicted it. I mean, I'm on the triangle with David Huffman, T.J. Hopkins here at Northern Illinois University, and I said beginning of the year this team will score 5+ runs. Their starting rotation will be awesome. I said Kyle Hendricks will take the next step, because last year in the second half of the season, Kyle Hendricks was starting to show flashes of being a great pitcher, and all of that happened. So I'm not Nostradamus or anything, but I know my baseball. And when I look at a team and I see a team and I know how a team can perform, they came out, and from start of the season, from start to finish, they were the best team in baseball. And I congratulate these young Cubs, and they're going to win more championships. I am so happy. The end of the year awards, and this is just to wrap up MLB, because it was a great season. Big Papi had a great season. We all thought he was going to win the American League MVP, but I mean, it was a stretch. But he had a great year, retiring his swan song. I mean, he retired on top. I mean, he retired at one of the best statistical years that he's ever produced in his life, in his major league career. But the MVP ended up going to Mike Trout for the second time of his career. He placed ahead of Mookie Betts and Jose Altuve, which Mookie Betts, deservingly so. Him and Dave, if anybody on that team, that Red Sox team, played any better than David Ortiz, it was Mookie Betts. In the National League, unanimously, Chris Bryant won the National League MVP. There was no doubt about it. I mean, for a long stretch, they were saying Nolan Arenado and Chris Bryant. Chris Bryant and Daniel Murphy, the Dodgers, Corey Seager. You know, Corey Seager was phenomenal this year, the rookie. But Chris Bryant was bar none the best. He has all the tools. He's great at everything. He can hit for power. He can hit for contact. He can drive the ball either side of the field. He can play outfield. He can play third base, and he can play them at a high level. So he's a 5-tool player. He is bar none. I mean, this guy's gonna win multiple MVPs. He's gonna be a future Hall of Famer someday, barring injury. Okay, so we want to knock on wood on that one. Cy Young Award, American League Cy Young Award. A lot of people. Justin Verlander actually had more first-round votes than Rick Porcello, but it ended up going to Rick Porcello in terms of the total ballot. Corey Kluber ended up going third, and Corey Kluber pitched amazingly throughout the whole postseason. I got to give Corey Kluber, and that's another thing about the World Series is that Francona, the injuries to the Cleveland Indians bullpen, I mean not bullpen, but to their starting rotation and to their team period, a lot of baseball experts were saying, hey, this team's gonna get beat by Boston easily. I mean, they have no chance. And Corey Kluber and those guys, I mean, Francisco Lindor is a superstar. He's gonna win an MVP one day in this league. That kid is really good. Corey Kluber pitched his butt off the whole postseason. That seventh game against the Cubs, I knew that they were going to get to him because they did the same thing to Kershaw, except the second time when they played Kershaw the second time, they got to him. When they played Kluber the third time, they got to him. Even Andrew Miller, they got to him. So that's the one thing about the Cubs is that I love that team because they make adjustments, and they're so young and they're so mature. Already at this stage in their baseball careers, all those guys are under 23, whatever the case is. Kyle Schwarber, oh my gosh, how do you don't hit the ball? You haven't had a hit all year. You're out all year. You're expected to be placed in this DH role in the World Series, the biggest game of them all, and you flourish, man. Kyle Schwarber, and that's probably one of the reasons why Dexter Fowler's not coming back because he's like, man, look, man. We got to get some of these other guys. I won a World Series. It's time to go give me some knowledge. Maybe he goes to Baltimore Orioles and he actually finalizes the deal. Goes to play with his buddy Adam Jones this time. Maybe he does that because he didn't opt into his deal. He didn't take the qualifying offer that the Cubs offered him, which I think was like around the ballpark of $17.5+ million. Yada yada yada. But yeah, so Rick Porcello won in the National League. It could have went to either John Lester or Kyle Hendricks, but they ended up giving the award, the NL Cy Young Award, to Max Scherzer, and it's rightfully deservingly so. I mean, yeah, and he finished ahead of John Lester, and he finished ahead of Kyle Hendricks. So both those guys could have won. The Cy Young Award, but it rightfully deservingly went to Max Scherzer, who had an outstanding year, one of the most dominating years that a pitcher's ever seen, that we've ever seen from a pitcher in the National League. Going to the Manager of the Year awards, respectively so, Terry Francona won the American League. Now, the biggest one in the National League was Dave Roberts, and they saying, oh, he got it because he made the playoffs, he made the National League Championship Series with like 20+ injuries to that ball club. Let's put this into perspective now. They had the highest payroll in baseball, okay? And they weren't even the best team in baseball. Yeah, he had to flourish. He had to do something with whatever he had, on that team because they had 20+ injuries to that roster. 20+ injuries, they ain't making the playoffs, especially since the Giants, they started off the first half of the season very hot, and then second half of the season they kind of dwindled down, and the Dodgers actually took that opportunity to sneak back up and win the division. So I think it was deservingly so for Dave Roberts, but I think it should have went to Joe Madden. I think he deserved it. I think they just gave it. They gave it to him because I don't know why. I don't know why they gave it to Dave Roberts. I don't understand why they gave it to Dave Roberts. They should have gave it to Joe Madden. But it's okay. I mean, he got more votes, whatever the case is. So it is what it is. But Joe Madden came out with the ultimate hardware, and that's the World Series championship. So, and then you go with the Rookie of the Year awards. You got the Tigers right-hander Michael Fulmer in the American League. He finished ahead of Gary Sanchez, who has a very, very bright career. And then Tyler Naquin, who's the other Indians rookie in the outfield, he had a pretty good year as well as a rookie. He had that one blunder, though, in the Game 6 where he... that he had a very miscommunication there in the outfield, and which kind of turned the game a little bit in that Cleveland and Chicago World Series game in Game 6. But that's neither here or there. And then International League, unanimous. Everybody knew Corey Seager was going to win. Kid's going to be MVP one day. But, with Chris Bryant and Nolan Arenado, I mean, there's some tough players there. But Corey Seager one day is going to be the MVP. And right now, at this moment, I mean, he's one of the top players in baseball. I mean, this kid is phenomenal. He's phenomenal. So, I mean, that pretty much wraps up baseball for the year. Going into next year, favorites again are the Cubs. I mean, every baseball expert is picking them. The Cubs are going back to the World Series. And in the American League, the Cleveland Indians as well. Experts are picking the Cleveland Indians to be there as well. But I will say this. Don't sleep on the San Francisco Giants. Reason being, because the San Francisco Giants, because they lost the way they lost on having bullpen problems, if they would have had a better bullpen in that Cubs, they could have beat the Cubs in the first round in that division series. But coming into next year, you're going to watch out for the Giants. The Cubs are the favorites to win it again. The Indians are favorites to win the American League, as well as Toronto. Baltimore's back. And hey, let's look. Maybe Baltimore messed up by not putting Zach Britton in the game. That's how they lost the game to the Toronto Blue Jays. So, put that into perspective. We might see a rematch of the Cleveland Indians versus Chicago Cubs again next year. So, it's going to be a long year. Can't wait till baseball season. But I think everybody's glad it's over. And that way we can move on, and just concentrate on, the NBA and, the end of football season or whatever the case is. But it was an amazing season. It was an amazing run. And congratulations to the Chicago Cubs for winning the World Series. Now, my second bid now is the biggest story in the NFL right now is the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott's leading the league in rushing. And Dak Prescott looks like a quarterback. He didn't look like a rookie. He looks like a guy that's been there 5-6 years, and he's ready to win a Super Bowl. That's how good Dak Prescott looks. He's so good to the point where the whole, when Tony Romo comes back, he's going to be the starter. That was dead. Tony Romo actually came out and said, this is Dak's team now. And I'm the backup. And I'll be proud to be the backup. And his speech was it was heartfelt. I mean, Tony Romo really, you could hear the pain in his voice. Like, it hurt him to give the reins to Dak because Dak's been playing so good. He's the future. Tony Romo only got like about 3 or 4 good years probably in the NFL left. But Dak has 10 years in the NFL. So you got to go with the younger gun. And the guy who's been playing great, phenomenally, him and Ezekiel Elliott could easily be both co-rookies of the year, even though I think Ezekiel Elliott's going to win it. But both of those guys easily, I think, are going to be Pro Bowlers this year, obviously, I think. And I think the Dallas Cowboys, I think they're the best team in football. They have a very great chance. At winning not only the NFC, but the whole dang thing. They have a great chance of winning the Super Bowl this year. I'll tell you why. I mean, in the only closest competition, I will say this. Oakland, phenomenal. I mean, that AFC West division, Oakland's 8-2, Kansas City 7-3, Denver 7-3, San Diego's the low. They started off. San Diego lost so many close games. I think 5 of those 6 losses they lost by 2 or 3 points. I mean, San Diego's lost a lot of close games, a lot of games that they gave away. San Diego could easily be 7-3, just like Denver, or 8-2, just like Oakland. I think Oakland is going to be right up there with New England, and I think that's going to be our AFC Championship is Oakland versus New England. The AFC North is just terrible. And then on the NFC side, you have, I think it's going to be Dallas, and I think it's going to be Seattle. And I think both those teams are going to be in the NFC Championship. And I think I think Dallas is going to end up coming up on top because Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott, it's something special about the team. You got the best line in football. And that's a big argument right there. Who has the best line in football? Dallas Cowboys or the Oakland Raiders? And both teams are respectively only have 2 losses on their record. Oh no, I'm sorry. Dallas has 1 loss on their record. They've won 9 straight games in a row. That's hard to do in the NFL, to win 9 straight games in a row. Oakland, I think, is just right up there. They've won some type of consecutive games in a row. Don't know at this point. Doesn't matter right now. But I think they've won, let me see how many games. I think they've won 4 in a row, but they've won, the last game they lost 26-10 to the Chiefs. They get to play them down the road on the 8th of December, so in a couple weeks, I believe they play them. And but before that, I mean, their loss before that, they lost to the Falcons in week 4 or week 5, I believe, or something like that. So, I mean, the Oakland Raiders, another young team, young guns. These guys, these teams in the NFL, man, you're starting to see the youth come out, man. The youth is coming out this year. I can't say that about Jacksonville Jaguars, even though I like their defense. The Jacksonville Jaguars, it's like a total flip-flop. Their offense was supposed to be a top 10 unit, not their defense. Their defense has ended up becoming a top 10 unit this year, statistically, and their offense has been terrible. And it's not Blake Bortles' fault. It's just they don't have a consistent play on the offensive line. They don't have a consistent running game. They haven't been able to get much out of Allen Hurns. Teams have been doubling Allen Robinson. They don't have really a great third wide receiver or a fourth option. Julius Thomas has pretty much been underwhelming and underachieving. So the Jacksonville Jaguars have kind of been quite a disappointment, but not so much. You kind of figured this is what was going to happen, but I mean, their defense has improved now. If they can pull it together next year in terms of their, maybe, the Jacksonville Jaguars, maybe, I mean, they're 2-8, man. I mean, nobody expected them to be 2-8 this year. Nobody expected. Everybody expected them to at least compete in that division, especially how mediocre that division is. Houston 6-4, Indy 5-5, Tennessee 5-6. I mean, all the 3 of those teams are only a game out of each other, a game and a half for Tennessee. So I mean, everybody expected Jacksonville to be better. That division to be a little bit more competitive with Jacksonville thrown in the mix. Their offense to take another step, and their defense has actually been better than their offense this year, which is quite surprising. So when I look at it, man, I look at the Dallas Cowboys' success. One, they run the football very well. Especially when you have a young quarterback, a rookie quarterback, when you have the best offensive line in football, you have a workhorse back who you can give the ball to. He's leading the league in rushing. And by the way, he's a rookie too. And you have one of the top tier wide receivers in the league in Des Bryant. You have a future Hall of Famer tight end in Jason Witten. And then, hey, it's Dak Prescott behind center who can either throw it 60 yards or he can run it for 40 yards. That's how dangerous. He's a dual threat. He's a simple dual threat quarterback that has been the stamp in this league for the last, I want to say 5 to 7 years with Colin Kaepernick and Tyrod Taylor and Robert Griffin III and so forth, and Marcus Mariota. I mean, they've been going to these dual threat, read option type style offenses, spread offenses that actually kind of computed well in the NFL. And Dak Prescott, who other than Dak Prescott? I mean, look at Mississippi State. He was the Heisman Trophy candidate dang near every single season he was there. Breaking records, Mississippi State records, the kid was phenomenal in college. So, I mean, congratulations to the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, they're starting to look like a real Super Bowl contender. We didn't think that they were going to be that the start of the year with Tony Romo being hurt. But, I mean, Dak has filled in quite tremendously. One big surprise, and I think this team can turn it around in the NFL, is Carolina. I mean, as we're starting to get down to the last 6-7 weeks here. Carolina's 4-6. They're only 2 games out of Atlanta. Atlanta's 6-4. But a big surprise is Tampa Bay. They're 5-5. They're 1 game out. They've been tremendously. And I think that whole division, the NFC South, has been underachievers. I mean, Carolina especially. And there was a scary moment for Luke Kuechly last week, which I hope he's all good. That was a very scary moment. I think that really should raise people's more awareness on concussions, because I mean, look at Luke Kuechly. He looked scared. He looked like, man, where am I? Like, what's going on? Like, he was hyperventilating. It was a very scary moment to watch as viewers. And I think the NFL needs to. I know that Roger Goodell pulled out on some funding for concussion protocol, or whatever the case is, concussion. The NFL pulled out on funding for concussion research, or whatever the case is. They need to put their money back in, because looking at Luke Kuechly, that stuff is real, man. Anyways, the Carolina Panthers have been underwhelming. One team that I say has been playing terrible has been the Green Bay Packers. I mean, what's going on with them? They're too predictable. No running game. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is just like, they just know where they just know, it's like the teams know where the plays are. I mean, they just got whooped by Washington. Come on, man. So, the Green Bay Packers, they can't tackle. They have no running game. Their offense is very predictable. And a lot of people are saying, hey, maybe it's time for a coaching change. Maybe Mark McCarthy's offense has been a little bit too predictable. Maybe Mark McCarthy hasn't really shown any growth since they won the Super Bowl. And it's rightfully so for fans to feel that way, because, you know, they're buying tickets, they're going to the games, they're watching the games, they're buying, they're rooting for their favorite players, they're rooting for this team, and, you know, for this team to go out there and put a product like that on the field, especially with one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, probably arguably the best quarterback in the NFL behind center and Aaron Rodgers, and with one of the, you know, with Devontae Adams and Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb, and then, you know, I mean, Eddie Lacy had to lose a lot of weight and he got back in shape, but now he's hurt again, and, you know, they have no running game, and they've been, you know, picking up running backs. I like to say from the 7-Eleven, because they've been picking up running backs from out of nowhere, you know. So the Green Bay Packers they're looking like they're in shambles. Hopefully they could turn it around. They've been very disappointing this year, and I just hope that they can turn it around, that everybody can be cool. But it looks like, I mean, if I'm going to pick a winner for this division, it's going to be Detroit. Detroit has been playing very great. They have been playing very great this year. Even though they're 6-4, a lot of their losses have been very close losses. They could easily be 8-2 or 9-1, just like the Cowboys or just like the Oakland Raiders, or the New England Patriots for that matter. But the Detroit Lions, I think, are gonna outlast the Minnesota Vikings just because they have Matthew Stafford and they have Sam Bradford. They have a little bit more of a running game. Minnesota Vikings doesn't. They have better wide receivers. The Minnesota Vikings doesn't. Even though I like Stephon Diggs and I like Kyle Rudolph, I think the Detroit Lions with Eric Ebron and Marvin Jones and Golden Tate, I think those guys are a little bit better than the Minnesota Vikings. The only thing about the Minnesota Vikings that I do like ahead of the Lions is their defense. They have a top-tier defense. Their defense is phenomenal, even though sometimes their defense is out there a little bit too long because their offense could be a little bit lethargic. But that being said, I like the Detroit Lions to come out on top in that division. I like the Dallas Cowboys to come out in their division. I like the Oakland Raiders to come out in their division, even though Denver and Kansas City have been playing phenomenal this year. I like Indianapolis to come out in their division. Pittsburgh's going to come out in their division because I really don't trust Baltimore. New England definitely coming out in their division. Detroit, like I said, and I think NFC South, I'm undecisional about because I don't trust any of those teams, and it's very unpredictable. Carolina can just hit a hot streak and win that division easily. I like Seattle to win their division very easily and run away with it in these last 6 to 7 weeks of the season. But let's see what happens. And looking at the playoff picture so far, 1 through 6 in the AFC is Oakland, New England, Houston, Baltimore, Kansas City, Denver so far. And in the NFC, you have Dallas, Seattle, Detroit, Atlanta, New York, and Washington. 3 teams out of the NFC East in the playoffs so far. I expect that to change. I expect Washington to fall out, and that's my reasoning right there. Moving forward now, and I just broke down the NFL a little bit. Moving forward to the college football landscape now. Now I played a few excerpts, or I played a few radio calls, or calls of upsets, especially the Clemson upset against Pittsburgh, the Iowa upset of Michigan. This happened a few weeks ago, and that was the week where 3 of the top 4 teams in the college football playoffs lost. In that same week, you had Michigan lose, you had Clemson lose, you had Washington lose to USC. USC looked very good, even though they're a 3-loss team. They're probably not going to be in the college football playoff, but they did shake up some things. And so when you look at the rankings this week, you have Alabama number 1. They've been the best team all year round. You have Ohio State number 2. You have Michigan number 3. You have Clemson number 4. Washington number 5 on the outside looking in. And number 6, Wisconsin. Number 7, Penn State. Just waiting to jump in. One of those teams are going to jump in. Because I expect Washington to lose to Washington State. And this is my reason why. That team, Washington State, is very sneaky good. Very sneaky good. And people don't really realize that Washington State is going to give Washington a run for the money, and they are going to win this week against Washington. That is my upset of the week pick. Ohio State, Michigan. I want to pick Michigan, and not because I'm biased, because my little brother goes to Michigan. I have a little brother that goes to Michigan. He's in the college engineering program. Whoop, whoop. But Ohio State's going to pull that game off. Reason being, they have more talent. JT Barrett, reason being quarterback. I don't trust Spade. I trust Barrett more. I trust Ohio State skill players more. I trust their defense more. And I think they're going to squeak out a close one at the Horseshoe. And I don't know if Michigan's ready. I don't think they're ready to beat Ohio State. Now, I think you got to give them one more year. Even though, Jabril Peppers is the second coming of Charles Woodson. I mean, he's out there flying around on offense, flying around on defense. I mean, the guy he's phenomenal. He's phenomenal. So, when I look at this, I think Washington's going to lose. And I think either Penn State or Wisconsin. I think, actually, since Wisconsin lost to both those teams, Penn State beat Ohio State. I think if Ohio State loses, I think Penn State jumps ahead of Wisconsin and jumps right into that college football playoff, even though they got 2 losses. Wisconsin, sneaky good. I mean, they lost to both Michigan and Ohio State. They could very well do the same thing. But, let's see. Let's see what happens this week. We know that one of those 2 teams are going to lose because they play each other. We know that one of those 2 teams are going to lose. Louisville they took themselves out of the college football playoff by getting just trounced by Houston. And so, USC out of these 3-loss teams, none of these 3-loss teams are going to make it. Oklahoma has an outsider's chance. But like I said, any of the outside teams that have a chance is going to be either Penn State or Wisconsin or Washington to jump into that college football playoff if Ohio State and Michigan lose. Now, you still have conference. With that being said, you still have conference football playoffs to be played. Friday has a football slate. You got Houston versus Memphis. You have Washington versus Washington State. Boise State versus Air Force. Nebraska versus Iowa. Toledo versus Western Michigan. Western Michigan, they got one more win to finish off an undefeated season. They're in the MAC championship already. They're going to win the MAC. And they have an outsider's chance. They have a really good chance at playing in a New Year's Eve bowl game. Western Michigan does. Corey Davis, phenomenal. Best wide receiver in the nation. He's going to be a top 10 pick, I believe, in my eyes. At least a first-round pick. He's going to be a phenomenal athlete, phenomenal football player. He's going to be a very good player in the NFL at the next level. And I think sky's the limit for that kid. And that team, PJ Fleck turned that team around in a jiffy. Northern Illinois has had a stranglehold on the MAC. And this could be just one good year that PJ Fleck has. I mean, this could be one good year, but it was a phenomenal year. I mean, on so many levels. I mean, the first 8 games, their offense didn't even commit a turnover. I mean, so, Western Michigan, phenomenal team out of the MAC. I love the way they played. I love that roller boat mentality that PJ Fleck has instilled in that program. That program has built up there. Kentucky versus Louisville, and this is just the notable top 25 games that I'm going through. Kentucky versus Louisville. Louisville should be able to win that game easily. Michigan versus Ohio State. Like I said, I had Ohio State playing. They're playing the whole shoe. That's your top premier game of the week. I think college football game day is in Columbus this weekend. You have Notre Dame versus USC. I think USC is going to win that game. Notre Dame is just, fire Brian Kelly, please. Auburn versus Alabama, the Iron Bowl. And I have some very big Alabama fans that are friends of mine, and I'm going for Auburn because I just can't stand Alabama. I'm going for Auburn in that game, and rightfully so. Auburn has had success against Alabama. I don't think it's going to happen this year, but I'm going to root for Auburn to beat Alabama and pull off the upset, even though Alabama is favored by 17.5 points. But that's neither here nor there. I'm gonna still root for Auburn, but I'll have Auburn winning by a field goal or something like that. But in my heart, I want Auburn to win. In my mind, being a analyst and being a personality in this business, I think that Alabama's gonna whoop them. But that's neither here nor there. Navy versus SMU. Navy's played very good this year. Navy's just been sneaky good the last 6-7 years. That program's really good. They're going to beat SMU. West Virginia, Iowa State. I got West Virginia winning. Penn State beating Michigan State. Michigan State down year, 3-8. They'll bounce back next year. They have some good recruits, some young guys. It's a young team. Minnesota 8-3. Wisconsin 9-2. That's going to be a good game. Very close game. Wisconsin's favored by 14 points, a couple touchdowns, but Minnesota could, pull out some magic and win that game. South Carolina versus Clemson. Easily, I got Clemson winning that game. Tennessee versus Vandy. Tennessee's winning that game. Utah versus Colorado. Sneaky game. I could see Colorado losing that game to Utah just because of the way the two offenses play. I think, but Colorado's defense is pretty good. They're really good on the outside. Their two corners are really good, outstanding corners. I think their free safety's really good. Florida versus Florida State. Whoo! Both teams, 8 wins. Florida's 8-2. Florida State's 8-3. Florida State's ranked 14 in the nation. Florida's ranked 15. That's gonna be a slobber knocker. That's your primetime game, 7:00 on ABC on Saturday night. And I think Florida's gonna win that game. I like Florida. In that game. And then rounding out the top 25 games this week for college football, you got Stanford versus Rice. And I believe Stanford's gonna win that game. Yeah, college football, pretty much, I think, and when I look at my rankings and I think who's going to end up in this college football playoff, I think it's going to be Alabama, number 1, Ohio State, number 2, Clemson, number 3, and then, if Washington could beat Washington State, they'll be number 4 and they'll hold on. They still got to play a Pac-12 championship game, but I think Michigan's going to be on the outside looking in. But if the dominoes fall into place, Michigan could have a chance still. They still could have a chance at getting in the college football playoff, despite on who wins conference championships and yada yada yada. Still, I think Wisconsin still has the Big Ten championship to play as well, if I'm not mistaken. So that's neither here nor there. I just let me look at the standings here. Because Michigan and Ohio State and Penn State are in the same Big Ten East division. So if Michigan and whoever loses between Michigan and Ohio State is basically going to win that division and play in the Big Ten championship. And then you have Nebraska and Wisconsin, who are at the top of the Big Ten West. I think Wisconsin's going to end up winning that division, if I'm not mistaken. So let's see what happens, man. It's gonna be very interesting. This is our fall special. This is Thanksgiving week. It's Thanksgiving. Happy Turkey Day. I'm trying to wrap it up as fast as I can. Last weekend was a great boxing match between Sergey Kovalev and Andre Ward. It was a close decision. Andre Ward won by, I think, 1 point on all three. I think it was 113, 114 on all three judges' scoring cards. I scored it differently. I scored it 7-5 for Kovalev. He had the early knockdown. He was the more of the aggressor all boxing match. I think Andre Ward was a one punch and clinch type of guy. I think he was trying to be more of the aggressor in terms of like pushing Kovalev around, even though Kovalev's the bigger guy. It didn't really seem like it. But Andre Ward did land more his jabs, but Kovalev landed way more power punches. And I think in a boxing match, when you look at power punches to jabs, I think your power punches actually are should be looked at more if you land more power punches, because those take a lot. They take a lot of energy and a lot of wind up to land. I think Sergey Kovalev actually won that fight. I think when it comes to like American versus Russian, we always had this rivalry since the Cold War. And I think it was a classic, like Larry Merchant put in. I seen like a post-fight interview with Larry Merchant on SB Nation. It was a classic, like he said, I'm going to repeat his words, it was a classic hometown decision. Even though Andre Ward is not from Las Vegas, he's still an American, he's still from the United States. They picked the hometown kid to win that fight. And it was a very biased decision. I think if you look at it, 70% of experts and fans saw it the way most people saw it, and Sergey Kovalev should have won that fight. And there's gonna be a rematch, even though the fight was kind of underwhelming. It's been happening a lot in boxing, where you've had these fights where they had such built up expectations. Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao ended up becoming a dud. Canelo Alvarez versus Miguel Cotto ended up becoming kind of a dud. With Canelo Alvarez just really pounding Miguel Cotto with power punch after power punch. You had Gennady Golovkin and Kell Brook, and everybody was like, "Oh, Kell Brook took this match on short notice. It might be a good match for him." He got whooped on by Gennady Golovkin. I'm trying to think of any other premier boxing match that was out there. Oh, Klitschko within the last year, Klitschko versus Tyson Fury. That was just an embarrassment to watch. So I mean, you've had these fights who have been they've been built up. Victor Postol versus Terrence Crawford. I mean, Terrence Crawford just outboxed him and embarrassed Victor Postol in that matchup. So I mean, you pretty much this past year, boxing has had these high profile matchups that have been duds. And we're just waiting to see a high profile matchup that actually lives up to the expectations. This was another one last week. It didn't live up to quite as the expectations. Even though it was an okay boxing match, it was a little bit better than some of the ones that I previously just mentioned. But like I said, man, I think Kovalev got robbed there in a way. In sort of a way, I don't want to say like Timothy Bradley, Manny Pacquiao robbed. I don't want to say that. That's highway robbery right there. But I think pretty much he should have won that fight, and I think everybody else was pretty much that same consensus that he should have won that fight. And now Andre Ward's being mentioned as the top pound for pound fighter in boxing, next to Gennady Golovkin and Canelo Alvarez and so forth, Manny Pacquiao and so forth. So I think boxing really wants Floyd Mayweather to come back and fight again. But that's neither here nor there. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Floyd's pretty much good with where he's at. He's got his own promotional company, boxing promotional company. He's got a bunch of young fighters that are fighting under him. I think he's pretty much good at where he's at in his career and in his life. I think Floyd he doesn't want to come back to fight. The next big matchup that's coming up in boxing, though, is going to be Keith Thurman versus Danny Garcia for the welterweight title, and I think that one's going to be a really good one. It's not quite high profile as like Sergey Kovalev and Andre Ward, but it is pretty much, it's like in the same as Bud Crawford versus Victor Postol. It's in that same type of I want to say arena, same type of expectations, same type of star power. To say. So I think that one's gonna be a good fight. I actually got one time winning that fight. Reason being, I got one time winning that fight because Danny Garcia starts off slow. Even though his last fight he started off fast and finished fast, he starts off slow amongst, like, when he fights a really top tier, he starts off slow and then he ends up, making the proper adjustments and he ends up winning by, like, split decision or something. That's not going to happen in this fight. You can't start slow against Keith Thurman. He's going to bang you up early, often, all throughout the fight. He's going to keep coming at you. The only thing about Keith Thurman, he slows down at the end, and that's when Danny Garcia kind of picks it up. And that's where it kind of matters, is at the end in those later rounds when it's a close fight. That 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th round, those last 4 rounds are the championship rounds right there. And if Danny Garcia can actually win those rounds, keep it close, he can beat Keith one time. But I actually see Keith one time knocking out Danny Garcia. I know Danny Garcia has a good chin. Keith Thurman has a good chin, but I think Keith Thurman's power is going to get to Danny Garcia, and Danny Garcia is going to lose that one. I want to say 9th round TKO, or just knockout. I mean, he won't come up. He won't come off the mat. I think he's just going to pound him. I think he's going to pound Danny Garcia, and they might even throw in a white towel. I mean, I don't even know why I'm saying all of this, but I think that's what's going to happen, and I think Keith one time is going to win that fight. In MMA, McGregor, he won his last fight or whatever the case was. But I don't really care much for the MMA. It's the last year it's just been kind of, I mean, John, just with like all these steroid allegations and all of this stuff, and John Jones not fighting, it's kind of lost its lure a little bit. Ronda Rousey, losing to that one girl, can't even remember her name. But yeah, that's how irrelevant MMA is to me and pretty much to everybody else, even though it's one of the top growing sports out there right now. It just lost its lure with the its big fighters like John Jones being suspended and Ronda Rousey not fighting as much, and a lot of fight fans are really wanting to see certain matchups in the MMA and then they're not being able to see them. I just think McGregor actually brings it back up, but let's see what happens, in the future for the MMA. But anyways, that's gonna be a wrap, I think, for this episode here. And I just want to say, for everybody out there, I'll say what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful for everything that has been transpired in my life, for all the blessings that I've had in my life. I'm sure everybody else is going to be, thankful for a lot of blessings that happen in their life. And Thanksgiving is about being with family. Thanksgiving is about sitting around the table, enjoying stories, watching some football after eating some food. And it's just about being with the family, just enjoying time with your family, enjoying time with loved ones, and just basically putting it out there like that. So I think I'll go ahead with the next podcast. I'm back. I took a 1 month layoff and I'm back here now. And I think the next podcast will be on NFL Sunday recap and preview or whatever the case is. I'll actually do my season awards here, predictions for the NFL. Coming up on the next podcast. And I'll actually talk about some NBA next time come around. I didn't discuss that. I'll kind of bring it up in a nutshell here in the NBA. One thing's first. First things first, okay? The Golden State Warriors are going to lead the league in points per game. They just blew the Lakers out 149 to whatever the case was. 149 to like 114. I think that's their like 4th game this year where they scored like 140 points. The Golden State Warriors look really good with Kevin Durant. They look even more explosive with Kevin Durant, which everybody kind of you swap out Harrison Barnes for Kevin Durant. That's a no-brainer. The Chicago Bulls are a lot better than what people thought. They got 9 wins so far. Chicago Bulls are a lot better than what people thought. Derrick Rose. People thought Derrick Rose wouldn't be as good as he is this year. He's not as good as what he once was before, but at least he's playing every single game. He's not sitting out for knee problems. He's not sitting out for general body soreness like he did when he was on the Chicago Bulls. He's actually out there. It's only 14 games during the season, but Derrick Rose looks really good, explosively. He's got some really good games that he's played this year. He's getting it's a new system for him. He's been playing that emotion system that the Chicago Bulls been running either with Tom Thibodeau or Fred Hoiberg, and now he goes to a triangle system. It takes a little bit of time for the point guard to get used to, but he's settling in more as a facilitator now for the New York Knicks, and actually look really good. Kristaps Porzingis is the All-Star this year. Carmelo Anthony's always been perennial All-Star. Actually, Brandon Jennings off the bench has been phenomenal for the New York Knicks. I think they're 7-7, so it's still a young season. I like the New York Knicks in that division. I actually like them a little bit better than Boston for some reason. One thing, Cavaliers are really good. Kevin Love just scored 34 points yesterday in the first quarter. It's unreal. I think that's the second most output in one quarter. I think the last time it was last year with Klay Thompson. He scored 37, I think, against Sacramento. The Cavaliers are really good this year. I think they only got like 2 losses this year, 3 losses, whatever the case is. Cavaliers are really good this year. Anthony Davis is playing at a high MVP level this year. Barring injury, Anthony Davis is in that MVP consideration. Westbrook in that MVP consideration. Harden, MVP consideration. Both those guys are triple-double machines. Jimmy Butler, MVP consideration. Guy's playing phenomenal this year. I think he's had like 4 or 5 30-plus point games this year. He just puts the team on his back and goes crazy. Dwayne Wade's been pretty good, but he's not an MVP consideration or anything because I've been just mentioning MVPs. But Jimmy Butler, I think, is up there with James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis, and so forth. LeBron James, man, look, LeBron James can win MVP every year if he wants to. He puts up those kinds of numbers. The Greek Freak, this is one thing I want to say that I want to initialize, and I'm gonna do a NBA. I'm gonna do an NBA of like a Friday show during the NBA season, just weekend of review. I'm just gonna call it NBA roundup or whatever the case is. But the Milwaukee Bucks, I don't, the record wise, they're not right quite where they are, right? They're not quite where you want them to be. There's one thing that I noticed about the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis, phenomenal. Greek Freak, phenomenal. Jabari with the Greek Freak, phenomenal. You know who's missing out that equation? Chris Middleton. Not even there right now. He's injured. When those 3 guys are playing on the same floor, ooh. The Milwaukee Bucks, man. And then you got Don Maker, young Don, on the bench right there. The Milwaukee Bucks, they got a bright future. The Milwaukee Bucks got a bright future. I mean, in the next 2 years, I see the Milwaukee Bucks being Eastern Conference, final perennial players, because Milwaukee Bucks are young, athletic, skilled. They got a good team. They got a really good team. I mean, not a really good team, but in the future, the Milwaukee Bucks are going to be really good for the future. Really good team. Probably a point guard away from being a really outstanding team. But Giannis could be a point guard. That's the thing. 6'11" point guard. I mean, you just need like a Matthew Dellavedova next to him or a Patty Mills next to him or something like that. But they're a really good team. One team that has been really shockingly good this year has been the Charlotte Hornets. They've been pretty good. They've come out the gate really strong this year as well. So look out for them to continue that. It's a long NBA season, 82-game season. You gotta just let the season unfold a little bit more before we get into these who's gonna be good, who's not, who's mediocre, who's not. Still 14 games in the NBA season, and we don't know who's separated themselves out of the pack yet. So, like I said, in the future, I'll be providing more NBA reaction and analysis on the Prime's part. But anyways, I hope everybody have a happy Thanksgiving. I'm gonna wrap this show up. It's kind of went a little bit longer than I thought it would be, but I hope I covered most of the fall. It's the winter months now, so we had a good fall. Chicago Cubs won the World Series. Dallas Cowboys are 9-1. Everything's good when the Dallas Cowboys win. America's team, supposedly. And just a lot of great things. College football has had its ups and downs, roller coaster rides, great storylines in college football. So I'm happy to see what happens down the stretch in terms of college football championship week. I think is in a couple weeks. So and then college basketball is on the cusp. I mean, they just started college basketball season. I'll preview that as well upcoming in some shows. But for now, it's gonna be deuces for Israel Rivera. I'm gonna be out of the prime here. Everybody have a happy Thanksgiving. Don't get too full. Save a lot of leftovers for Black Friday. Go Black Friday shopping. Don't go too crazy. Everybody be safe out there on Black Friday. And basically, I'll see you until next time. Peace out.